Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So new polls came out of the state of Ohio. Donald Trump is winning Ohio by 12 percentage points, folks. This is not a swing state anymore. This used to be a swing state. This used to be a state where if Republicans were winning nationally, they would, barely win Ohio. But you look at 2008, 2012, Obama posted two decisive victories in the state of Ohio, and they have currently a Democrat senator who is the last elected official statewide that is a Democrat, and Republicans have fully transformed this state mainly thanks to Donald Trump. And there's only one domino left to fall before this state's not even remotely considered competitive. Now, it is true that Trump won it both times by under 10 points, but still that's a big shift, and the shift is probably going to continue because Biden's unpopular. You look at trends, you look at Trump going out there, and he's courting voters in a lot of these, industries, even these, union workers in many cases, these auto workers, these just industrial type of voters that exist. You talk about steel workers, just the Cleveland area, the entire state, really. It's prime territory for Trump to make even more gains, and it seems like he's doing so. But this video is not going to be entirely about Donald Trump. We know Trump is going to take Ohio by likely double digits, and that says something because the early polls in Ohio typically are underestimating Republicans. This state is the new Missouri. But, it took a little while for down ballot Missouri to get as red as it is today. And the same thing goes for Ohio. And you have a LARPer in the Senate named Sherrod Brown, who is a lapdog for Biden. Ideologically, he's basically no different than Elizabeth Warren, but somehow his working class LARP has allowed him to become somebody who has been difficult for Republicans to knock off. Now, we can go back and look at his history. We can go all the way back to 2006. The current governor, Mike DeWine, was actually the incumbent senator, but, it's a federal election. Sherrod Brown, you have a Democrat who was, relatively propped up, had a strong working class LARP, and was able to go out there and defeat DeWine, who, mainly was one of these, and he still is like a neocon, and we know that Ohio not really the best fit if they're able to win, because that's the argument a lot of people use. Oh, well, Rob Portman won. It's like if neocons are winning Ohio, it's because the Democrats just let them. Look at DeWine's opponent in 2022. Compare it to Vance's opponent. Obviously, if they swapped opponents, Vance likely would outrun DeWine, and that's with DeWine being an incumbent governor. That's true. So you look at 2012, Sherrod Brown went up against Josh Mandel, who at the time, and still largely is, just as an establishment Republican, fully in the mold of Mitt Romney. Now, he has changed tune recently. He became like this pro-Trump LARPer in the 2022 primary, so much so to the point where Trump found him to be off-putting, found him to be a little bit weird. Trump went with Vance, which was the right move. But you look at this, Josh Mandel, he actually performed, I guess you would say in line, but actually a little bit worse than Mitt Romney. He actually lost to Sherrod Brown by 6 points. A lot of people said this would be very competitive. It was not competitive. Sherrod Brown won. I mean, it was a presidential year. With Trump on the ticket, though, Sherrod Brown would have gone down in 2012, and that's when he was a lot more popular than he is now. But you look at this 2018, a lot of people were saying, and you could look at the polls, the early polls in 2018, Sherrod Brown was winning some of them by a sizable margin. He was winning some of them by 13. Even in, October, he was winning the polls by close to 20 points. But at the end of the day, even though the polls showed him winning by double digits, he only defeated Jim Renacci by, 6 to 7 points. And that's with him doing relatively well and having an electorate that was relatively, favorable to the Democrats, as favorable as it really could be. And Mike DeWine won the state over another, far left Democrat opponent by, 3 to 4 points or so. So the ticket split was around 10. and it's probably going to be less when Donald Trump will be on the ballot. So you look at 2024, Sherrod Brown likely goes down. I know the early polls do have, and you can go to the general election, they do have Sherrod Brown defeating most of his Republican opponents, but still, it's not by a ridiculous amount. These are early polls, and even then, he's an incumbent senator. He's not polling anywhere close to 50%. He's polling in the low 40s, sometimes the high 30s, and that's with a lot of Republicans torn on who to nominate. That's with a lot of Republicans kind of, weighing their options, and on top of it, you have name recognition issues for some of these candidates as well, because a lot of people still don't know who the Republican candidates are because they're not incumbents. And that we know. Frank LaRose probably is the highest name ID, but as time has gone on, he's lost ground in the primary because he's kind of ran a very awful campaign. And even though he was polling the strongest initially against Brown, now he's polling the weakest because he's chosen to run a campaign, choosing weird hills to die on, etc. He's not going to be the nominee regardless. Now, this is becoming a two-way race between Bernie Moreno and Matt Dolan. Now, Bernie Moreno is somebody who ran for Senate in 2022. He did mediocre in terms of his polling. He dropped out. He endorsed Vance, and then Vance returned the favor, endorsed Moreno this time around. And you look at that, and it's like, okay, well, Moreno's got a lot of great people supporting him, got a lot of great people endorsing him. Donald Trump has backed him. You look at basically the entire slate of endorsements that Moreno has. It's the endorsements you typically would want. You have, everybody in the MAGA wing, but you also have a lot of other people in the mix as well, who are, I guess you would say, like MAGA adjacent. People like Lee Zeldin, for example, have come out and endorsed Moreno, hinting that he's got a lot of support. The Club for Growth and Trump both came together to support Bernie Moreno, and you look at that, that's absolutely huge there. Now, here's the deal. You look at Matt Dolan, he's got more establishment endorsements. This is the same guy that ran for Senate in 2022. He surged late, and he ran a Rhino campaign, and it didn't work out too well for him. Now, here's the deal. This time around, he's changing tune. All of his ads, he's talking about the strong border. He's talking about kitchen table issues. He's running a campaign that's a lot more palatable to the Republican voter base, and he's got a lot of money. Now, I don't like Matt Dolan, mainly because of the fact that, yeah, he's a Rhino, but also he played an instrumental role, and his family played an instrumental role in changing the Cleveland Indians name to the Cleveland Guardians, which was a disastrous move of political correctness. And this is the same guy who talks about on his website how we need to end cancel culture. Matt Dolan is somebody who I believe is, probably the type of guy who will say anything to get reelected. Now, he does have arguably better advertisements than Moreno. He does have more money and probably even more name recognition despite not having endorsements, but at the same time, he is somebody who will likely go there and be the second coming of Rob Portman. Maybe not as bad as Rob Portman, but he's not really going to be all that good, and that we know. And everybody who likes to talk about electability, here is the deal when it comes down to it. Because A, I think any of these three candidates can win the general election because Donald Trump is going to be on the ballot. He's going to get out that low propensity, white working class base the way he usually does. And I think that could propel Bernie Moreno to a primary victory. But still, either way, I think with Trump on the ticket, any of these three candidates can win. But here is the key to victory. The most electable candidate is going to be who is able to limit the amount of voters who are going to go out there and cast a ballot for Donald Trump, but then simultaneously cast a ballot for the fakest moderate of all time right next to John Tester in Sherrod Brown. Because I don't think you're going to see a lot of Biden-Moreno or Biden-Dolan ticket splitters. You may have more Biden-Dolan ticket splitters than Biden-Moreno ticket splitters, but at the same time, I think you'll probably end up with more, Trump-Brown ticket splitters if that is true to offset that. So I think that arguably all of these candidates can win. I think all of them would win, but I still think with Trump on the ballot, Moreno will probably be carried to victory more so because of his proximity to Trump. And when you look at a lot of these elections, typically these MAGA candidates, when Trump is on the ballot, they do very well. When he's not on the ballot, sometimes they don't do so well for various other factors. You have, fundraising issues, plenty of other reasons why, and you could make those arguments, even though I think the establishment candidates in a lot of those races would probably even be worse off. But still, besides the point, looking at it, Donald Trump is on the ballot. I think that Moreno should be the nominee. I would encourage people to get out and vote for him to stop Matt Dolan. They're getting desperate. They are. They're trying to go out there and say that Moreno created an account on some gay hookup website. At the end of the day, it's like he denied it. Apparently, a former intern did the account as a prank, and the account was last active, I think, 6 hours after it was created. So if he was using it for gay hookups, why would he only be on it for 6 hours? It seemed like a prank that just never really got off the ground, but whatever. This is something that seems to be a little bit of a point of desperation. The guy's a family, a wife and kids. Doesn't really seem to add up. But still, when you look at the big picture, this is a primary that will be competitive. The question is, will Donald Trump being on the ballot in Ohio, rallying for Moreno in Ohio, kind of stop the bleeding? It's entirely possible. And as LaRose tanks, where will his support go? Some of his more socially conservative support might go to somebody like Moreno, but some of his more establishmentarian support probably could go to Dolan. But the fact that Dolan is seeing a surge in polling, he's led 2 of the last 3 polls, and even the poll that he hasn't led, he is still within striking distance. And the poll out of East Carolina University shows that the undecided voters, if you push them one way or another, he expands his lead over Moreno. So even though the early vote probably does favor Dolan because it is more establishmentarian, it's possible that the election day vote may not be that favorable to Moreno if Dolan is truly surging. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens at the end of the day. I think Moreno probably pulls through in the primary, but still, it's still going to be interesting. We have ways to go. And you look at the fundraising and who spent a lot of money. Matt Dolan, he raised a lot of money. He spent a lot of it, and this was from December, so a lot of that cash on hand has already been spent. Meanwhile, LaRose, he's completely getting frozen out. He was initially seen as the strongest candidate, but now it seems like he is anything but. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a close primary in the state of Ohio regardless. Donald Trump being on the ballot, though, and rallying for Moreno, will that help his odds of victory? We have yet to see, but either way, I just want to say the MAGA takeover of Ohio is completely complete, and it will be cemented when Sherrod Brown goes down this November and Donald Trump takes the state of Ohio by double digits, cementing the state status as the Missouri of the Great Lakes. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.